I'd love to live in a world where every single person can be themselves fully and never feel the need to be someone else, to filter themselves or hide bits of themselves to fit in. My idea is that to be our real selves, we need to spend as much time as possible in the real world, the unfiltered world, with real, non-fictional people. It's here that we learn to be confident in our own skin and accept other people as they really are. I'd like to offer 3 ways to learn to be our real selves. First, by minimizing the time we spend in the filtered world. Second, by learning from real people. And third, by practicing having courage. Be yourself is a phrase you hear a lot when you're 12. It seems to be one of the most common pieces of advice from adults, particularly when you're about to do something scary, like this thing I'm doing right now. Everyone told me, Connie, just be yourself. In fact, whenever I'm in a situation that is unfamiliar, that's all adults ever say. A spaceship could have landed in the back garden, and I'm sure my mum would tell me to just go out there and be myself. But being yourself is not as easy as it sounds, because when you're 12, there are so many options to choose from, so many selves to be. This time last year, I was in year 6 and really nervous about going to secondary school. None of my friends from my old school were coming to my new school, and I was quite worried that I wouldn't fit in or make new friends. My parents told me not to worry, just to be myself. When I eventually joined secondary school, I loved everything about it, the classes, the teachers, the food. But I didn't like how suddenly I felt more self-conscious, more aware of how I looked, how I sounded, how the children I hung around with felt about me. Suddenly, I was no longer me, which is weird because of course I was still me, I just wasn't myself. The issue is, as soon as you hit secondary school, you're trying to find out who you are and what kind of person others want to be friends with. The expectation is to be as wow as the people we see through the filters of Snapchat, Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok. It's like having a wardrobe full of identity jackets. I kept on trying out different jackets to see which one fitted best. I tried on crazy. I tried on cool girl. I tried on the I don't care. But the problem was, in the first term of secondary school, I often felt like I'd left an important identity jacket at home. For example, in the playground, I didn't always feel like I'd be the self that clowns around with my brothers at home. In the classroom, I didn't always feel like I'd be the self that argues about what I truly believed and felt. I started to wonder how to be myself. Who even is myself? Maybe being me is the one who just conforms and copies everyone else. I don't want to be the oddball, but I don't want to be vanilla ice cream either. I realized that in amongst all the new identity jackets I'd hung up in my wardrobe, my jacket, the one that fits me best, the one that I like the most, had fallen off its hanger, was in a crumpled heap on the floor. It was so tiring trying to fit in and wear all these different jackets that by the first term of secondary school was over, I was exhausted. I didn't care anymore what people thought of me as long as I didn't ever have to feel this way again. I took social media, including WhatsApp, completely off my phone. Within a few weeks, it felt like I had so much more room in my wardrobe again. I dusted off my old identity jacket and hung it back up. It felt good to put it back on every morning. Yes, I miss out on some social stuff, but I'm still able to text my friends, and I don't really feel left out of anything. I just feel better. I learned recently that the word filter comes from the medieval Latin filtrum, which was a piece of felt used to strain the impurities from liquid. It seems to me that it's the same for people. We filter away all the bad bits that we don't want others to see. But if we don't ever see other people's impurities and imperfections, then how can we ever learn to accept our own? I recognize that taking social media off our phones isn't for everyone, and that's okay. But what's not okay is constantly comparing ourselves to filtered images and trying to be something we're not. We need to be comfortable with who we are and who we will always be. This got me thinking, about my second idea. If the answer to being ourselves doesn't exist in the filters of social media, then who can we turn to for role models? As I've often done in the past, I turn to my trusty heroines from literature. Surely they'll have some answers. First, I turn to Juliet from Romeo and Juliet. She's feisty and defied expectations, but she lost personal agency and killed herself in the end because she couldn't live without a man. Then, I turn to Jo March from Little Women. So brave, but no, she never learns to live in her own skin. Hermione Granger, the cleverest witch for her age, well, she is a true inspiration, but she's not exactly the chosen one, is she? That role falls to the boy. And even when we find a perfect role model like Seffi Hadley from Noughts and Crosses or Katniss Everdeen from The Hunger Games, they don't make a lasting impression because they are not real. They too have been filtered through the eyes of the authors that brought them to life. How can we compare ourselves to superheroes without feeling miserable and self-consciously ugly? How can we aspire to have aspects of a fictional character if they do not exist? Let's stop finding soul inspiration in filtered or fictional characters who we know deep down we cannot match, either because they're trying to be something they're not, or because they simply do not exist. Maybe we should try to accept that the basic mixture that makes us, us, is nearly perfect. It's just about topping up with different aspects of real people that we know exist and who inspire us to be better. We all have a different recipe for being ourselves, each with different ingredients that we individually find important. Here's mine. I'd like to take a tablespoon of my mummy's friend Suze's confidence, the way she wears a short skirt, not to try to impress, but because she likes her legs, and because it was only 50p from the charity shop. Then I'll take a cup of our family friend Dan's patience, and a sprinkling of my cousin Rebecca's kindness. I'll take a large dollop of my two brothers' daring and creativity. A litre of my granny's ability to keep on going and continue fighting for what she believes in. A handful of how my friends speak their minds and tell me the truth. 50 mils of my form tutor's belief and trust in me and my classmates. A pinch of my daddy's inability to take anything seriously. And a big squeeze of my dog bear's ability to be the very best listener. I want to keep topping up my character as I get older, not to create a whole new self, but just a slightly stronger one. So that when I feel a bit empty or deflated or lost, then I can look around me and borrow some ingredients from real people that I know exist and who inspire me to be better. The chances are, the things we like in other people are the things we like in ourselves as well. Because I think we know deep down who we really are. That's not the problem. The problem is showing who we really are. This is my final idea. Why do any of us feel like we can't be our real selves? I think I know why. The simple explanation is fear. Fear that people won't like us for who we are. Fear that our true colors are wrong somehow. This fear can last forever if we don't pay attention to it, and it can be really dangerous. So if the problem is fear, what is the answer? Well, I think the answer is practicing having courage. Practicing looking someone in the eye, even when you might be terrified. When someone shows their real selves by doing or telling you something brave and look you straight in the eye without fear, without shame, without embarrassment, suddenly that person just became transformed into some kind of superhero. Whether it's the boy who confessed recently to gang members at my daddy's school in central London that he's a fantastic ballroom dancer, or the girl who dreams of joining Special Army Forces, or the rugby player with the homophobic parents who comes out as openly gay. It's doing it with gusto that is the answer to showing our real selves. That's why I'm here today, telling you what I think. Even though I'm terrified, I'm practicing having courage. Because if one person stands up and risks being their true selves, others will do the same. So here's my pledge. I pledge to be unfiltered, to turn to real people for inspiration, and to be brave enough to show my real self, always. Thank you.